All right, the rest of section 1 begins with a discussion on page 484 about how to go from degree decimals to a measurement system called degrees, minutes, seconds. And there are two examples on page 484 that I think are pretty self-explanatory. Example 5 and example 6. You shouldn't have too much trouble with that. Then the text goes on to looking at trigonometric values in examples 7 and 8, where they extend the discussion from converting to degrees decimals to degrees minutes seconds to using the trigonometric functions after you put it in degree decimals. So I think that's pretty self-explanatory as well. Please note the difference between finding an exact value for an angle versus an approximation. For example, if you had some value like the square root of 3 over 2, notice that the square root of 3 is an irrational number. And if you remember the definition for an irrational number, it's a number that when you find the decimal equivalent goes on forever. It never repeats. So usually what we end up doing is truncating it and finding an approximation. So square root 3 divided by 2 is 0.866 and some other stuff. This is an approximation. But if we leave it like this, we have an exact value. So note the difference between an approximation and an exact value. That is an important distinction. On page 487, you have what we call cofunction identities. I would probably make sure that you look at those. It's just a number of formulas. There's an example that is paired with it. And then that is the end of section. Now, one other piece of information to note. On the back cover of your textbook, you have what do they call it? A trigonometric function value of special angles. A trigonometric, gosh, that's a lot of words to remember. Function values of special angles. This whole business here, and the circle that goes with it, is usually called the unit circle. And this is going to be critical that you have this on your formula sheet for your next exam. You're going to use this a lot in the next few chapters. My suggestion is not to try and draw it on your formula sheet, but to perhaps make a photocopy of it, cut it out, and stick it on your formula sheet for your exam. It's just absolutely going to be invaluable. Another note is, as we move forward, there are graphs of trigonometric functions on the back cover as well, and those are going to be important as well because we're going to start stretching and shrinking and moving all sorts of trigonometric graphs. And I think that is it for section 1. If you have any questions, as always, shoot me an email or we'll meet if we can.